he had a way of encouraging and joking with people. It was very nice.
He said, I have so many palaces all over the world that I can stay in. He said, practically speaking, there's no difference between me and the Goswamis in terms of our lifestyle. He said, they stayed under a different tree every night. I stay in a different palace every night. They wrote, I write. He said, originally, I did not want to come here. He said, Krishna, not to America, but to this world. He said, Krishna asked, I want you to write those books. Come down and write those books. And I said, I don't want to come to that. I don't want to go to that material world. And he said, Krishna said, don't you worry, I'll take care of everything. You write those books. That was the first and only time that I've ever heard or read, I might be wrong, where Prabhupada actually spoke about Krishna speaking to him and how he didn't want to go. And he made that face, his upper lip kind of, I did not want to go to that world. He said, I will take care of everything. You just come down and write those books. The atmosphere when he said that, it was just, it was like nothing I've ever experienced, ever.
One time, this was, I can't remember what year, but now we were into where the temple room is now, and Prabhupada was sitting in that big Vyasa-san there. And he gave a lecture, and at the end of the lecture, Prabhupada said, so if you will just follow these 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds, then you will go back to home, back to Godhead. I guarantee it. And Prabhupada paused, and he just sort of looked around at all of us. And then again he said, I guarantee it.
And I remember in the early days, before ever meeting Srila Prabhupada, how vitally instructive and enlightening his letters were. And in one letter that came to us at Bury Place in 1970, it must have been, there was this admonition. I think it was in a letter to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was asking, what is more important, Sankirtan, rounds, devotional service, our health? And Srila Prabhupada's answer was, the highest principle is to save yourself.
Also, there was a time in Calcutta when anyone who was around in those days knows wasn't that easy to get to see Srila Prabhupada. There were some heavy sannyasis, and they used to kind of guard him, and more or less, you were just kind of a prop or an extra in the movie, and they were kind of the stars. So luckily one time, and I think it was September of '74, all the powers that be were not in the Calcutta temple. And I'm just sitting, minding my own business on the balcony, the veranda of Calcutta temple, outside Prabhupada's room. And it was only a curtain. There was no door. Suddenly, Shuddhakirti appeared on our side of the curtain, and he said, hey, Prabhupada's just sitting in there if anybody wants to come in. So first I thought, whoa. But then I realized that Chutananda was there, so I didn't feel so weird going in alone. Chutananda went in with me. And I remember that whole time was when Hansadutta was doing something strange, collecting money, and they were complaining to Prabhupada, Gargamuni and Chutananda, because it was Chutananda's record and he was selling it and keeping the money. So they were constantly badgering Prabhupada. He was very tolerant, he didn't say anything. So as soon as we came in, the first thing that Chutananda said, again, he said, Prabhupada, it seems like although the Japanese and Germans lost World War II, they've taken over ISKCON. And I'm thinking, what's this guy talking to Prabhupada about? So Prabhupada looked at him quizzically like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, Hansaduda, he's a German, and Polymerton's wife's Japanese, and they're just like, they're destroying, the movement. So Prabhupada just said, why are you so concerned what this man does, that man does? He said, your relation is with the Guru. He said, it doesn't matter what this man does. He said, and he quoted, Yasha Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tataguru. If you have faith in the Guru, then everything will be revealed to you. Faith in the Vedas and the Guru. So it's a very, very instructive, because, it's something you just can't forget. Because sometimes we hear so many excuses, this man did this to me, and that man did that. Probably wouldn't take that. If it doesn't stand up, it probably doesn't acknowledge that. There is friction, it's true, you can't ignore it. But ultimately it's up to us, and the relation is with the Guru, even though there may be so many failures, even caused by so-called God brothers or something. But they're just temporary setbacks. It really has anything to do with your real Krishna consciousness.
I once said to him, Prabhupada, I said, I am so lusty, I said, my eyes go everywhere. He said, oh, that means you are going to go blind. I said, blind to material nature, I hope, Prabhupada. He said, no, blind. Oh, dear.
So we were walking down the beach, and so Dr. Judah said, Prabhupada, what do you do about the question of lust? And Prabhupada stopped, and he dug his cane in the sand. He said, unless you become Krishna conscious, there's no solution. He said, you have to become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, there's no solution to this lust. And then he walked on, and again he repeated. He said, if you become Krishna conscious, then this question of lust is solved. Otherwise, you cannot solve it any other way. Which is like Prabhupada was saying, that you can do so many things. You can cut down eating your sweets, or you can, do so many things, have, defense mechanisms like young brahmacharis that women are snakes and this and that. He said, but unless you become Krishna conscious, you just go on with your service, become Krishna conscious, and you can overcome this.